Mike saw this as the golden opportunity he had been waiting for to free himself from his nightmarish ordeal. Before it turned against him, he was aware that there was a price to pay, but he decided to do what he was doing, stealing from the devil. He quickly grabbed his suitcase, opened it, and removed all the money, stashed some in a backpack. The rest was stashed in a small sack and put in a paper bag, and left in a hurry. He made sure that no one would track him, so he left his mobile phone on his table, and off he went, like a bird set free by its captor. He got to the road and immediately stopped a tricycle and hurriedly told the driver to take him to the bus station. He was progressing well with his plan. He kept on looking behind to see if there was someone following him. It seems everything was just fine. He paid his driver and alighted at the bus station. He inquired of a direct bus that will be headed to the capital, Nairobi. Most of them were leaving in either an hour or two. To him, to take 2 more hours was dangerous. He needed to leave the city immediately. He planned very fast of what to do. Now that he had the money, he could get a suitable option for his escape. He walked around and found a taxi driver who seemed to be bored, sleeping in his car. He knocked on his window and asked him as the window came down, "Excuse me, sir, how much will you charge me to Nairobi?" The man was excited. "To Nairobi?" he asked. He hesitated for a minute and the driver told him, "Give me 20,000 shillings and I'll take you there," he answered. "Okay." Mike accepted. He boarded the taxi and headed to a nearby petrol station and told the attendant to fill the tank, gesturing for Mike to pay. They were to cover a distance of 484 kilometers. It was a tough journey of close to 9 hours non-stop. The driver was determined. He popped the bonnet open, got out and checked if everything was fine. And after a short while, they started their journey. The driver asked Mike, "Are you serious? You're going to Nairobi?" "Yes," he answered. "And what are you carrying in your bag?" Mike had started to be sleepy at the time when he asked him about his luggage. He was shocked, wondering what he was up to, asking him that question. Mike hesitated and wondered if he had noticed. He had a huge amount of money. He said, "I'm carrying nothing of great importance, so never worry, just some clothes and many, many more clothes." "Why do you ask?" Mike inquired. "No, I mean, you have to know who you're dealing with. We are in constant danger when operating these cars. We meet with dangerous characters sometimes, but anyways, nothing to worry about." Mike loved how the driver was moving fast. He was doing 120 kilometers per hour. Mike asked the driver, "How long do you think we'll be arriving in Nairobi?" The driver chuckled and told him, "They will be arriving in 5 to 6 hours. We normally do that many times for our clients, so don't worry." He knew that he will clear the 484 kilometers in 5 hours or less. And true to his words, the driver made it. In 2 hours, they were passing their half mark of Mtito and Day, having 2 hours remaining for the final journey. Eventually, they arrived at the capital of Nairobi in the evening at 7 p.m. Mike was a fast planner. He paid the driver and jumped into another taxi that took him home. The drive lasted for only 45 minutes and he arrived. Everyone was so happy to see him. Though he was tired, he freshened up and sat down with his mother, father, and other family members who were preparing to start a church fellowship meeting in an hour's time. Mike's family was very devout Christians. This meeting was a customary thing to them. He sat down with them, narrating the entire story of what had happened to him. He excused himself and told them that he wanted to sleep in his room because of his tiring trip from Mombasa. No one objected. They let him go and have a rest. 2 hours as they continued with their church meeting, a certain beautiful young lady wearing a black shiny miniskirt came asking for Mike. She identified herself as Alice and that she was in campus with him and that she just wanted to briefly inquire something from Mike. They did not see any problem in that, so they directed her to Mike's room. As they continued with their fellowship meeting, after the lady turned and disappeared from their sight, she finally saw Mike's door. She went through the walls of Mike's room, who was fast asleep. She materialized in his room and walked to the bedside and woke Mike up. At first, Mike could not understand who was hurriedly waking him up. He woke and sat on his bed. He saw a beautiful lady that was very familiar, and the lady asked him, "Mike, what are you doing here?" in a very agitated voice. Mike replied, "Why?" The lady asked him, "Mike, why did you steal my money?" At once, Mike jumped on his feet and stood on his bed and asked her how she got into his room since the door was closed. The lady answered, "It doesn't matter. Again, she asked him, "Why did you steal my money?" It is at this point that Mike realized that he was actually talking to Alice, who gave Mike a warning and told him, "If I reach in Mombasa before you, I'll finish you." At that, fear gripped Mike like a vice. He started screaming at the top of his lungs. His relatives heard Mike screaming, asking for help. They came running to his door, banging and asking him if everything was all right. They asked him to open the door. Immediately, the beautiful lady turned into a small housefly and flew out of the room through the window. And when they got into the room, Mike was panting out of breath. "What is it?" they asked. "She will finish me," Mike answered while holding his head. "Who will finish you, Mike?" the mother asked. Screaming, he said, "Alice," he answered. "Who is Alice?" the mother asked. "It is the lady I was telling you about when I came." "What?" the mother exclaimed. They could not believe their ears. "And where has she gone?" Mike screamed even louder, saying that she just changed before his very eyes into a small housefly and flew out through the window. "I have to return her money," Mike answered, panting. They argued with Mike not to go, but he could not take any of that. They begged him to stay around so that they could pray for him, but he was telling them that he had to race back to Mombasa. He jumped out of his room with only a vest, carrying his backpack full of money and his small sack in a paper bag was on one hand. As he ran out, he begged them to pray for him so that he returns home safely. Little did they know that they were seeing Mike for the last time. This happened in 1992. Since then, no one knows where their beloved son Mike went. They are not sure whether he was alive or not. This was a true event being told by the auntie to the young man Mike. The moral lesson of the story is to work hard and build your own wealth. Do not wish to have the big things you see your friends with. Be satisfied with what you have and live within your means. Your hard work will pay off one day. End of story. And that is how Mike stole from the devil.